Jesus was on a roll. The momentum of his ministry was gaining speed, and the numbers of folk who were being touched, moved, and blessed by his teaching, his healing, was growing. And as he entered his hometown of Nazareth, the list of his powerful accomplishments was getting longer by the minute. To this point in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus had already cast out countless unclean spirits, healed innumerable people, including lepers, a paralyzed man, not to mention Simon Peter's mother-in-law. He had continually amazed folk with his wisdom and his words, and along the way had not only calmed a storm on the Sea of Galilee, but had seemingly brought back to life a little girl who had apparently died. Jesus was on a roll, and as he and his disciples approached his hometown, there must have been anticipation that the wonders and the wisdom would continue to flow. And I have to believe that everyone was excited, even Jesus, because after all, this was home. These were the people who had watched Jesus grow. And so when he stepped forward to teach in the synagogue, can't you just imagine the folks sitting in the back pew, elbowing each other and whispering, "That's little Jesus. Don't you remember the time that oh, who would have thought? My, how time passes." But then, as Jesus spoke, the whispers from the back row changed in their tone. Where does he get all this? He's just a carpenter. Who in the world does he think he is? Mark tells us that as Jesus taught, the folk from his hometown synagogue took offense at him. And I have to wonder if Jesus was hurt by what they said. For we find him responding in what seems to be a rather uncharacteristic and testy way. Prophets are not without honor, except in their hometown and among their own kin and in their own house. And then we find a phrase that I find absolutely fascinating and sad in so many ways. And he could do no deed of power there. And so I have to wonder, what happened? Why the power failure? Could it have been that the words from the folk of the synagogue had gotten into his head? I wonder if the negative comments and the criticism caused him to question his own abilities and power, his God-given talent, insight, and strength. What else could it have been? What else could have caused such a massive and profound power failure? It happens to us all the time, doesn't it? We are on a roll, personally, professionally, proudly basking in our comfort zones, or perhaps even excelling toward a goal that we have always dreamed we might achieve. We're excited, we're engaged, we're on our best game, and then someone we know, someone close to us, or perhaps even a total stranger says something, mutters something, offers a word of criticism, a hint of negativity, and suddenly our bubble of enthusiasm bursts. Our confidence withers. And all our little insecurities that we've managed to keep in check start to nibble away at our dreams, our goals, our God-given potential. And before we know it, the negative words, the criticism, the words of doubt that have come from without take residence within our minds, our hearts, our souls. And as our spirits slowly curl into a fetal position, we experience, like Jesus, a powerful and profound power failure. Yet the good news, at least for Jesus, is that his power failure didn't last long because he was powerfully faithful to his mission and to his ministry of sharing God's love. We are told that after leaving Nazareth, Jesus didn't just give up. Rather, he traveled around the surrounding villages and continued teaching. And then he sent his disciples out 2 by 2 to cast out demons and to heal the sick. The comments from the synagogue may have echoed in his mind, but so did the word and the will of God. Jesus was on a roll again because he decided to listen to God rather than his detractors. He chose to hear the exciting and empowering call to ministry rather than the negative whispers of the naysayers. And he made the decision to overcome his power failure by being powerfully faithful to all that God called him to be and to do. My friends, when we find ourselves in the midst of a personal power failure, we need to be mindful of who we are listening to. When we find ourselves depleted and doubtful, when we discover that our energy and our enthusiasm are at an ebb, we are more than likely listening to the wrong voices, the negative voices. When we find ourselves overwhelmed and seemingly powerless, perhaps we are focusing too much on the criticism, the worries and the fears that come from without and within, and we're allowing those pesky little insecurities to slowly nibble away at our personal power and potential, rather than listening to the encouraging and empowering voice of the living God. My friends, when we tune our minds, our hearts, our souls in to the leading of our loving God, when we decide to listen to our God of hope and of limitless potential, there is no challenge that we cannot overcome. There is no weakness that we cannot transform into strength. And there is no doubt that cannot be converted into confidence. But to do that is a choice. It is a choice between listening to our fears or to our faith, between paying attention only to the negative or to the positive, between giving in to our power failure or choosing to be powerfully faithful. The choice is ours. It is always ours. And when we make the right choice, it can make all the difference in our lives, in our community, and in our world. There is a quote from Marianne Williamson that I just have to share in closing, because it speaks to my point and it speaks to our potential. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Listen to the leading of our living, loving God. Leave the fears, the doubts, the negativity that seeks to drown out our powerful potential behind. And let us move beyond our power failure and become, as God calls us to be, powerfully faithful, that we might live to our fullest positive potential.